Hey y'all, what it is, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. It's a wrap, aka Yudi here, and today we are talking books. So if you're interested to hear my thoughts about what I've been reading throughout the fall, stick around. How are y'all feeling? I feel like since the last time we've been together, I've just been in a real good reading mode. And I think it's because like summertime, it's nice outside. You want to be outside. You want to be active. And then when it starts to get a little bit chilly, baby, I want to be curled up with a book with a candle going. And that's exactly what I've been doing. So let's not waste any time. Let me get into all the books that I've read and how I've been feeling about them. So the first book I'm starting off with is The Neighbor Favor by Kristina Forrest. Sorry, I need to grab my notes. And The Neighbor Favor follows this character named Lily. She works in like publishing, nonfiction publishing, and she ends up getting in contact or having like this pen pal relationship with her favorite author of her favorite science fiction book. And they talk for months, and soon they plan like to meet each other. And then he kind of like says, "I'm sorry, I can't be with you," and disappears off the face of the earth. So what ends up happening is that she ends up getting a new neighbor. His name is Nick, and Nick is keeping a secret. Nick wrote the book that Lily loves, and Nick was the person that Lily was talking to this whole time. Yeah, so pretty much it's a real light, I would say like a real light romance. For me, it kind of read a little bit YA, and then because I've never read anything by Kristina Forrest before, and then I looked at her like other works, and she's mostly has written YA because something about their love story felt somewhat youthful, even though I don't think like Lily or Nick's character were necessarily juvenile, like in their character, but something about their love felt like, like innocent in a way and not super like deep and heavy. But either way, I enjoyed it. I think with everything else that I have been reading, this was a nice like light read that it didn't like disturb my soul. But also after reading it, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot, which is why I'm starting with it. I kind of forgot that I read it because it didn't leave me with any like deep feelings. And maybe that's like me as a reader thing. But anyway, it didn't leave me with any like deep feelings that it would stick with me. So it was nice. It was light, probably like a 3. It was like average. It's not bad. But anyway, moving on. The next book I read was, this one, baby girl, I'm going to have some thoughts. The next book I read was The List by Yomi Adegoke. And this book follows a couple, Michael and Ola. They're to be engaged in a month. They both are social socialites. They have like a real big social media following, and they're pretty much like the social media like relationship goals, black love couple. And again, they're engaged to be married in a month, and then a list comes and kind of changes everything in the dynamics of their relationship, because there's a list of men that work in the media industry who are being accused of SA and the R word. So Michael's name is on the list, and Ola's kind of blindsided, like, why are you on this list? What do you do? Who am I even dating? I'm supposed to marry you in a month. And pretty much the story is Michael this abuser, and how can Ola trust that he is or isn't? And like, how could she not know? Because also Ola, she is considered she considers herself a feminist. She works for this magazine that touches on like feminist topics. And also she in the past has written a story bringing light on someone who works in media who was accused of SA. And yeah, so she's very worried about her own image in terms of her career and as like her presence as a person that stands with women and protecting women. So yes, that's the story. So my thoughts on it. My thoughts. It was a page turner. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, so Michael, is you or is you not? But even if Michael did or did not do what he's being accused of, Michael overall is not a likable character. And I would say Ola is also not likable as well. You know, as the relationship is dissolving and we get more information about their past and other conflicts that they've had within their relationship, you wonder, not you wonder, you're all like, forget if Michael did it or didn't do it. You guys have no business being married. There is like deep trust and honesty issues that are like foundational in love or being in like a committed partnership that is not there. And it's not a good idea to get married. But either way, so they're going through it, and we learn like Michael as a character who's like, Michael is like, I think the most deeply flawed. And actually in my head, I'm like, Michael doesn't even need to be in like this kind of relationship because he needs to do so much like self-work and unpacking that I was just all like, oh my gosh, Ola, run! He can't be honest with you because he can't be honest with himself. There was nothing you can do. Like he has to do it on his own, baby. But anyway, the list was a lot. And I was really, you know, sometimes an ending can really like, it can be like, ooh, baby, this was a 5-star, or girl, what was you thinking? This is a 2. The ending just kind of undid all like the developing ideas and critiques that the book was trying to establish in my head. You know, I think Michael, whether he is or is not an abuser, he sees himself as the good guy, the nice guy. And we see that he is not. And we can argue that a society informs men how to show up within the world, that it is harmful. So he is in fact harmful, as much as he likes to say that he is nice and good and means well, that he has in fact been harmful to women. And also like how men are in community with one another and men need to have a space amongst one another to be emotional, to be vulnerable. Also like looking at the tough place of like loving men while men are also harmful, and how do we find that balance and still holding them accountable while also loving them. Yeah, it was just, it was more than that. It was a lot. I think I actually wrote down the themes. Yes, toxic masculinity, patriarchy, misogyny. Like it's touching on so much. And then we get to the end. And then when we find out what actually happened that has Michael on this list, you're just all like, it just feels, something about it feels like a cop-out. Like it feels like if it had ended a different way, it would be even like more to engage and wrap your head around. But also Michael's not likable. So if Michael had did it, I would have been like, Michael's not likable. If Michael hadn't done it, I would have been like, Michael is like, there's still a lot to say about all the things that Michael probably needs to work through, right? And so much that we as a society need to work through, you know? To be less harmful, to be a less harmful society, whatever. But anyway, yeah, the book was just, it felt underbaked by the end. It felt like, man, it could have been so much more. There could have been so much more to think about. But yes, the audiobook was good. Let me just say the audiobook, I was thoroughly entertained by the audiobook. I was invested. I was shouting. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, get it together. And another favorite thing in the book, the wedding scene, being Nigerian American and having been to like, you know, West African weddings, you know, when they were naming the music and like the bride and the groom dancing in and the outfit changes, I very much identified, and I was very much like having a good time. Like, yes, this is my song. Okay, yuri yuri. Okay, it was just like, yeah. Anyway, that was the list. I would give it. I would give it a 4. I would give it a 4. I'm not gonna lie. I would give it a 4. I did not have a bad time with this book. It did leave me with some things to think about. And in thinking about it, I was like, wow, I wish that the book had gone, maybe explored it or been more, I guess, I felt the ending was kind of like a cop out of really thinking through some ideas that were like brought up in the book. But anyway, moving on to the next read, another heavy one, House of Eve by Sadeqa Johnson. So House of Eve follows two characters, Eleanor and Ruby. So Ruby is 16. I believe she's 16 or 17. She's like thinking about college. She is from North Philly. Yes, I believe she's from North Philly. She's from Philly, okay? I might be wrong by North, but she's from Philly. And it's like the late 1940s. It's like 1948, early 1950s. And she lives in a very, I guess, tumultuous, but she has a strained relationship with her mom. Like, her mom doesn't really protect her. And we get that because in the very beginning of the book, Ruby's mother's boyfriend, I believe his name is Lee, she needs like money to catch the bus. And she's asking Lee, and Lee was all like, I'll give it to you if you kiss me, this grown man. So pretty much he like assaults her, and her mother walks in, and instead of taking the side of her daughter, she takes the side of her man because she so desperately wants to be in relationship and be loved by a man that she doesn't protect her own daughter. Ruby also wants this love. Like, her dad's not in her life. She has her grandmother, but her grandmother is blonde and she's not really doing too well. But she moves in with her aunt, and her aunt is really the only person that tries to protect her and look out for her. But anyway, Ruby ends up meeting Shimmy, who is the son of the landlord of her aunt's apartment. And he comes in and he fixes stuff. And Shimmy is white. He's Jewish. And they end up having a friendship that blooms into love, into a relationship. And of course, it's opposite sides of the track. It's the 40s. You know, they can't be together. And also, Ruby wants to go to college. Ruby is in this program to get a scholarship to go to college. And she really doesn't have room to be like on the outskirts, on the outsides, to be ostracized. Like, she really needs to get into the good graces to live a better life. Like, none of the women in her life financially have done well. I believe all of them are like her aunt works at a bar, I believe, and does like betting. And then her mother is a maid, and I don't know what her grandmother is. But anyway, she'll be the first person to have some type of economic mobility. So that's Ruby. And then we have Eleanor. Eleanor is in college. She goes to Howard. She lives in DC, but she's originally from Ohio. Eleanor, it's pretty much like a social outcast at Howard. She's darker skinned. She doesn't come from like an affluent family. She does end up meeting this man, Will, he's lighter skinned. He comes from an affluent family, and they end up falling in love with one another. But it's very challenging because his family and his circle does not see it for Eleanor. They feel like Eleanor is beneath him and the family. And, you know, she's from Ohio. Her family is working class. It's not a good look. So Eleanor is like struggling with that within their relationship. So pretty much it's telling these two people's stories. And, you know, as you're reading the book, it's very obvious how this story is going to end. Both women go through so much in terms of classism, in terms of racism, colorism, throwing all the isms. While it was sad, I did enjoy the way that the author kind of tackles one, like motherhood, Black motherhood, and the Black woman's body in terms of like these, especially now we talk about, you know, Black women and birth and pregnancy and our relationship with the hospital, and this book being based in like the 40s. And it's so interesting talking about especially Ruby's story, following her and her body and her relationship to her body, in terms of how how not only, you know, do the older women in her life call her fast, and as she's developing, like, things are really outside of her control, like, make sure you cover up for these men, or don't dress a certain way to attract these men, to the point, to the like extreme that her mother feels like she's not worth protecting, because she feels like, oh, you are enticing these men with your body. And it's just so like, ooh, it's just like so heart-wrenching for me, like these outside ways that people talk and diminish her body, and how she internalizes that and takes that and moves through the world. I mean, it's the same with Eleanor, in terms of, like, you know, her relationship with Will, her significant other, her partner's family, and how they're all like, well, because you look this way. I mean, it's also not just looks, it's also classist, because of like the actual financial background that her family comes from. But because she is not of lighter skin, she is of, it somehow becomes tied to like her class, or her like not being as elite as, you know, Will's family. A lot of people have enjoyed House of Eve, and it's actually a lot to talk about. I would do this for, I should have joined in a book club for House of Eve, but I didn't. I just read it by myself. There's a lot of books in this video that I wish I had read in community and like discussed, and maybe I'll find it later and go join a damn forum or something and just to write an essay that nobody asked for. But anyway, yes, that was House of Eve. I did enjoy House of Eve. I enjoyed the ending. Was like, you know, the ending, everyone got what they wanted. You know, like in the beginning, they had these like desires and these wants, and they got it at the end. But I don't know if it was really like fulfilling. I don't know if it was fulfilling because of like everything that they went through to get there. And it's so sad that they were all like, after all this trauma, the best thing I can do is just forget, and to lie, and to not be honest, you know, and to, yeah. And I just feel like, wow, that doesn't feel full if I have to go through life being dishonest and lying. Wow, isn't that the running theme? If I have to lie and be dishonest in order to fulfill these things. But then also I'm like, give grace. It's the 1940s. Like, we got to do what we can in order to get any type of joy we can grasp or hold on to. But oh yeah, that was a lot. And this is not even all my thoughts. I have but this is a wrap up. I don't got time. This is one of them I wanted to do a full review. But anyway, that was House of Eve. I would give this book 5 stars. Ooh, the next books I have is, I'm just going to lump them together. I'm going to lump them together, but not really lump them together. If you all don't know, if I haven't mentioned it maybe like 500 times, maybe I haven't, I love Bell Hooks' All About Love. I own the book. I read it. Gosh, when did I read it? I read it before, like, you know, I feel like was it during the pandemic? Maybe it was during the pandemic. There was a period where like All About Love just like boomed. Maybe it was during the pandemic, because also Bell Hooks passed away, in 2021. And I think that brought a resurgence of her work. And I think in that, All About Love started to gain momentum. But anyway, I always enjoyed All About Love, but I hadn't read any of Bell Hooks' other works. The video I was watching, it referenced Bell Hooks' work so much, and stuff outside of All About Love. And I was just all like, wow, I've actually never read any other works by Bell Hooks, even though I've seen like all of her series that she did on the New School. I've read other works, like other Black feminists, more contemporary Black feminist work that's like pulled, you know, from Bell Hooks. But anyway, I think it was the way that she put it together that I was just like, oh wow, I really have to go back. I have to go and read other books outside of All About Love. So I ended up getting the other books in the series that Bell Hooks did for All About Love. And then I also got Sister of the Yam. I started with Communion, and I loved Communion. I love Communion. I took more away from Communion than I did All About Love. It was so good. And also now reading more of her work, I am now seeing that the running politic of Bell Hooks, like she does really reiterate her politic and reframe it within, you know, each of her works. But I feel like once you've read maybe like 3 Bell Hooks work, you kind of get you kind of get Bell Hooks politic, especially about love. Okay. But Communion was just so good. And I think I read it at like a perfect time in my life. And again, I feel like I was the same way about All About Love. She's just so good at talking about love in like the verb form, in action, in practice. While it still kind of feels abstract, now reading her work and having read other works, like a lot of times we think about love in the romantic sense, in the sense of partnership. Her transforming it into like radical and revolutionary and like a way of like self-fulfillment. It just feels so much more, I don't know, it makes like, as a person who is not like very much like I love love, it did make me feel like I love love, but in a new way than I guess I've been traditionally thought to think about love, as this feeling, this strong, intense feeling that you have for someone else, versus like this ethic and this way that you move through life and commune with other people. And that is such like I don't know, a transformative way of thinking about love and a transformative way of thinking about life. And reading it makes you excited. Like, it made me excited to put what I've read into practice. I will say the radical honesty, okay, is radical for a reason. It's also something I'm working on. It was so funny. I go to therapy and I was talking about honesty with my therapist. My therapist actually, it's so funny in reading the book, how my therapist, I don't know, I should ask her if she's read Bell Hooks, because I feel like when I was reading the book, I'm like, I feel like my therapist has told me this in a less like intense way. in a more digestible way for me. But anyway, yes, I read Communion, and then the next book I read was Sister of the Yam. And Sister of the Yam was another one that really warmed my soul. That's all I'm gonna say. It warmed my soul. I love the way that she like talked about being in relationship with other women, and yeah, it's just it's Sister of the Yam is another one that is like really, is another one that's really good. I think Sister of the Yam and Communion go hand in hand. I read Men, The Will to Change last, and that one was a good one as well. And that was another thing, like, I felt like, what am I going to get for this? Because I feel like she's just talking to the men. But I feel like Men, The Will to Change really goes in on patriarchy and domination, which she talks about, you know, in her other works. But one, when we think of feminism, we think feminism in terms of like women and what it will do for women, you know what I'm saying? In terms, and we think of it as equality, equal pay, like, you know, that we will be on par with men, that we will have the same power as men, you know? And I think Men, The Will to Change, she really go in, and she's all like, no, feminism like is revolutionary because we're saying that, you know, patriarchy, that we don't want the same power as men, and that men also need to change, and that we just, you know, the dismantling of patriarchy and domination, and we don't want to be equal with men. And it feels more, I don't know, something about the Men, The Will to Change feels free and liberating from, you know, it's more of like it's more of talking of dismantling a system more than anything else. And it's, if anything, it should be like why men should be feminists too, why feminism is for everybody. Doesn't she have a book called Why Feminism is for Everybody? I know Bell Hooks has a lot of books. I might cut this out because that's embarrassing. But that's what I got from Men, The Will to Change. If you're all like, why men should be feminists, why men should have a feminist politic, hand me the book. That's my rant on reading Bell Hooks. And that is all the books I read this month. Yes, I feel like let's just call it the Radical Month. I'm going to take a picture with the fist pump of righteousness, as I love this YouTube channel, Lawrence Rocks, and she does the fist pump righteousness. So yeah, I'll put it in there. And yeah, I'm very excited for the end of the year. I have some fun videos planned. So until the next time, guys. Oh, let me know if you read these books and your thoughts on them. We can continue our conversation in the comments. And again, until the next time, guys, deuces.